Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening everyone, thanks for joining us. First tonight, a family is grieving the loss of a mother and her son after a devastating fatal collision in the state's south. Initial investigations suggest an off-duty officer contributed to the crash. A professional standards investigation now underway.
The scene of an unthinkable tragedy, mangled cars and debris all that was left after a mother and her son lost their lives in the two-car collision.
Two people were seriously injured in one car and unfortunately people were deceased in the other car.
The crash occurred just before 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon at Penna when police say a Toyota Hilux travelled onto the wrong side of the road, forcing the woman in her 50s to swerve her red Daewoo, crashing into an oncoming vehicle. Tributes are flowing for the pair, friends and family labelling Teresa and Jim Brown kind-hearted, beautiful souls. The occupants in the second vehicle were taken to hospital but have since been released.
There was also a mother and son in the other car. The lady is in her 50s, and the son is around mid-20s.
Police continued their investigations this afternoon, but sadly have found it was an off-duty officer who contributed to the crash. She was taken to hospital for assessment as a professional standards review gets underway.
Understandably, the police officer is not at work today. The police officer will continue to get wellbeing support and will take advice from her medical practitioners as to whether she returns to work or whether she has a period of leave.
It marks the second fatal crash in as many weeks on Brinktop Road, while a 16-year-old lost his life in a single vehicle fatality in Devonport 2 days ago. 26 people have died on Tasmanian roads since January, 6 of those in the past week alone, prompting a stark reminder to always obey the rules.
Make the choice to slow down. Make the choice to wear your seatbelt. Make the choice to not let yourself get distracted.
Road safety experts warn drivers must remember the fatal 5 causes of a deadly crash.
Speeding, drink and drug driving, distraction and inattention, not wearing a seatbelt and fatigue are the main factors that consistently come up.
A dedicated highway patrol unit will commence on July 1 to help avoid another disaster. Ainsley Kosh, 7 Tasmania News.
Well, undecided voters in the key seat of Bass will have their say in tonight's pub test for the leaders. Tom Johnson is at Alchemy in Launceston, where both voters and the parties will be watching closely later tonight.
You bet, Kim. It's a must-win seat here in Bass, and one which has developed a bit of a reputation for turfing out politicians in the past. In the last 10 federal elections we've had here, the seat has changed hands 8 times. In fact, the last time a sitting member held on to this seat was way back in 2010. Now, it's going to be intriguing to see which way voters vote tonight, and that's because of the way this campaign is being run by both parties. It's very much a leader-focused campaign. So you would have seen Labor has been trying to link Bridget Archer to Scott Morrison. That's presumably to counter her personal popularity. And the Liberal Party has been trying to highlight Anthony Albanese's gaffes, and that is, of course, dragging all the attention away from the local candidate Ross Hart. It's all been about Albo and not really Ross. So certainly they're both trying to push the main leaders to the forefront, and that's going to give a bit of an indication tonight when they are the centre of attention which way this seat might fall. Of course, Bass is a crucial seat. It is the second most marginal seat in the country, Kim, so there's one thing for sure. Every vote will count when the election rolls around, Kim.
OK, thanks very much, Tom. Taswater has moved to hike prices for its customers. The water and sewerage provider will be increasing charges by 3.5% every year for the next 4 years. The company says it'll add $43 to the average household bill for the next financial year. Prices were frozen for 2 years during the pandemic before a 3.5% increase was introduced in July. COVID cases in Tasmania are continuing to hover over 1,000. 1,058 new infections were recorded overnight, a slight increase on yesterday's numbers. 48 people are in hospital with the virus. Only one patient is being treated in intensive care. The head of the Education Department has assured the Commission of Inquiry into Sexual Abuse in Tasmanian institutions that he has encouraged staff to give evidence without fear of reprisal. Tim Bullard says he has communicated with all workers following concerns some witnesses may face repercussions for speaking out.
I'm happy to maintain that dialogue, but it's really important that people feel free to come forward and participate. We want this to be an opportunity where we can learn and improve.
Mr Bullard will continue giving evidence tomorrow alongside legal experts and department heads. The state's nurses have taken action outside the Royal Hobart Hospital, protesting what they claim are unbearable workloads. Tasmania's Nursing and Midwifery Federation is calling on the government to move immediately to retain and attract more staff.
I have to staff the hospital in the evenings and on night duty, and it's not uncommon for me to have to find 20 people to do double shifts and overtime just to staff the hospital safely.
We absolutely need to do all we can to retain our existing workforce and make the nursing and midwifery professions a competitive profession to come and work in.
Members of the Federation lodged a workload grievance in January. Meanwhile, unions have brought out the heavyweights in an escalating war over mill breaks at Uniting Age Well. Veteran stirrer and shaker Sally McManus joined the local brigade as security guards surrounded the aged care home.
They want better pay?
When do we want it? Now!
Using megaphone campaigning outside Uniting Age Well Kings Meadows, led by the most vocal of them all, Sally McManus. This drive-by was no coincidence.
Scott Morrison's got to go!
But they couldn't go on site. Security guards surrounded entry points for the short, sharp protest.
Aged care workers deserve the support of every single Australian.
The union is fighting two fronts. It wants a 5.5% pay rise nationally for aged care workers. That's currently under the Fair Work Commission's microscope. Locally, it's all about mill breaks. Unions claim Uniting Age Well wants them cut.
That's putting the safety of residents at risk and means that staff will lose over $2,000 a year.
Uniting Age Well says the changes aren't designed to disadvantage staff, but to make the allowance consistent and equitable. Adding compensation will be paid to those affected beyond the life of the current enterprise agreement. As for the beefed up security, Uniting Age Well claims they were to allow ambulances and other vehicles to access the site if needed.
Have all their managers and security here would pay for at least 2 weeks of paid meal breaks for staff.
In calmer scenes, 3 Tasmanians were recognised at the Industry's Excellence Awards in Hobart, a place where personal stories took the limelight.
Our nurses and care workers have been the absolute backbone of the aged care sector, and we're really looking forward to recognising them.
Mutual recognition still wanting, though, in the ongoing industrial dispute. Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
A woman has suffered serious injuries after being hit by a ute in Devonport this morning. The 60-year-old was at the intersection of Steele and Fenton Streets shortly before 7 a.m. when she was struck by the white four-wheel drive. She was treated at the scene before being taken to the North West Regional Hospital. Roads in the area were closed for 2 hours while police investigated. Final preparations are underway for Shakespeare's The Winter's Tale production at Hobart's T-Mag Gallery, set to showcase an all-Tasmanian cast. The team behind the show says it's the largest professional play to open in the state since the pandemic began.
I would also hazard that considerably longer than that anyway, because we don't often get the opportunity to have shows with such big casts.
The show premieres on Friday. A Tasmanian athlete has overcome a life-threatening disease to qualify for the Commonwealth Games. Erica Burley will compete in the Games' first ever vision-impaired event, drawing her strength from another homegrown talent.
Erica Burley is making headlines today, but behind her great achievement lies a huge personal struggle. At just 17, she was struck down with meningococcal B. On life support for 3 days, Erica's parents were preparing for the worst when she awoke from a coma to face a different life.
It had actually killed the optic nerves behind my eyes, so I have about 1% vision in this eye and about roughly 10% vision in this eye.
Despite her battles, the 39-year-old turned to Tasmanian Olympic athlete Ariane Titmus for inspiration.
I sort of thought, well, I'm either going to sit down and feel sorry for myself, or I'm just going to get up and I'm going to get going.
And get going she did, qualifying to compete in this year's Commonwealth Games after only 4 months of para-triathlon training.
It's that really positive mindset. When she goes in, she already thinks she can do these things, and more often than not, she's absolutely correct.
Special apparatus will assist.
I use a tether, which goes around my stomach and then ties to my guide. Otherwise, if I went out in the ocean by myself, I could end up at Bruny Island.
The Games begin July 28. BRIANNA, BOYLEN, 7 Tasmania News.
A Tasmanian teen is preparing to raise her voice, taking on the best in a national public speaking competition this weekend. The Lions Youth of the Year Award celebrating a new generation of leaders.
Lionheart of the Northwest, Gigi O'Rourke is going for gold in the Lions Youth of the Year Awards this Sunday. The coveted competition celebrates a new generation of leaders, and the gift of the gab certainly helps.
The competition consists of an interview round first, and then we have an impromptu speaking round.
But for the Year 12 student, public speaking is a relatively new skill.
This was my first time public speaking really on this kind of level, so it was definitely a new experience, but I really enjoyed it.
The Don College student signed up for the Lions Youth of the Year competition early this year and has already taken out 3 rounds. Claiming the local Port Sorell title, reigning at the regional Northwest final and soaring through the state competition, Gigi makes her way to Melbourne tomorrow for Nationals.
A little bit daunting, but very exciting.
Representing Tasmania, Gigi will take on the other national finalists receiving statewide support.
With Gigi going on to be our state finalist, we just find that an absolutely incredible achievement and so well deserved. Hearing her speak, I don't doubt that she will do really well in Melbourne on the weekend.
Devonport's Don College is also getting behind their classmate, with Principal John Thompson sharing his words of wisdom.
We're really proud of Gigi's achievement. She's, like many of our students, very humble, and through her own admissions she did not expect to move beyond the original competition. We wish her all the best.
It's not the first time a Don College student has taken out the title. Tom Rockcliffe claimed national honours in 2018. Hopefully Gigi can bring the trophy home to Tasmania again. MAKENNA Bailey, 7 Tasmania News.
It's all or nothing now for the Jack Jumpers. They're back on Kudos Bank Arena to try to keep the final series alive against the Sydney Kings. Limiting easy points will be the key to winning, and the team is adamant this series isn't over.
We certainly don't feel like we're done. It's, we'll be disappointed if we do finish tonight, but we've said it all along. We said it when we were 2-6. We said it when Will went down. We said it in the last 5 games. We just got to continue to get better.
If the Jack Jumpers win, it's back to Hobart for Game 4 on Friday night. Tasmania's NBL 1 teams are hitting the road for the first time this season. Young Launceston Tornadoes player Micah Simpson has been a padlock in defence. She's heeding the advice of the team's leaders ahead of a rigorous doubleheader.
Watching what they do away from game day, like how they prepare their bodies, how they recover.
We'll probably have to rotate a little bit more through the bench, but yeah, it's exciting to go on the road.
The Tawns and Northwest Thunder play Dandenong and Waverley, while the Hobart Chargers take on Diamond Valley and the Melbourne Tigers.
I'm surprised we got the Keilor game with such a young group, but now the introduction of Harry Froling and a couple of announcements in the next week or two, we should be at full strength by next home game.
Anthony Stewart says his side needs a split from these 2 games to have a good shot at making finals. Richie Port has cracked the top 10 in the Giro d'Italia after the first mountain stage of the race. Cutting across the desolate landscape atop Mount Etna, one of the world's most active volcanoes, Port erupted to the front of the peloton approaching the final turn. The Tasmanian lost several places after running out of legs on the sprint to the finish, but he's now sitting 9th overall, trailing Tour leader Juan Pedro Lopez by just over 2 minutes.
Good evening. Launceston and King Island, our warmest today with 20 degrees. Hobart recorded just 15, Burnie 17 and Devonport 18. Some temperatures 4 above average today after a cold night. Butler's Gorge dropped to -4. Flinders Island, Smithton, Low Head and Strawnall 19. St Helens and Friendly Beaches 18. Plenty of high cloud over the state and no significant rain out of that little bit today. However, plenty of rain fell from the cover over Queensland and New South Wales. More cloud is streaming across Western Australia. Tomorrow we still have a slight influence from the high that's moved well to the east. The low and trough continue over New South Wales and Queensland. A strong cold front there clipping WA. East-northeasterlies tomorrow at 10 to 20 knots over the north. Lighter elsewhere and more north-northeasterly. Swells at 4 metres in southern waters. Forecast 19 degrees for Hobart and cloudy tomorrow, 18 the top for Cygnet. In Norfolk, early fog, a top of 19 later. Launceston 18 degrees, morning fog, a shower or two clearing. Shower clearing from Devonport, 18 as well, 18 for Campbelltown. Burnie a high of 17 with a shower or two clearing. Early fog for Strawn, 19 the top and 19 also for Smithton. St Helens morning fog, a shower or two and 17. Showers clearing from Swansea, 18, 16 the top for Fingal. Fine on Friday apart from a shower through Bass Strait and maybe later in the north. Rain on the way for Saturday with a fresh to strong north-northwesterly change. And on Sunday a little wet weather again, less so over the southeast. A cool wet day in Perth, partly cloudy for Adelaide. Showers developing and 19 degrees for Melbourne. A few heavy falls in Canberra. Showers also for Sydney and Brisbane. Partly cloudy in Hobart, cloudy in Launceston, cloudy also in Devonport. Kim, getting excited about this national pub test tonight. Doing some study. I've got a question for you. Which pub in Tasmania in 1807 was the first ever to pour beers for the public?
I don't think it's that kind of pub test, Murph, but because I know my pubs, it's the Hope and Anchor. See you tomorrow.